Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Spliced in Later, the YouTube channel where we review movies and TV shows and talk about them and try to have fun while we're doing it. It's movie review time, the last of the few movie reviews we're going to do before the end of the year, before we cap things off with the top 10 movies of 2023. And look, cards on the table to get it out of the way, just so if people are listening because they want to continue looking for people to bitch and complain and whine. This isn't that review. I really enjoyed the movie we're going to talk about today, which is Wish. I can hear everybody clicking away angrily, but I hope the people that are sticking around have an open mind or are willing to hear me out. Now, Spliced and Later, we're based here in Australia, meaning we only just got Wish for an advanced screening last weekend, and it's still not officially out here yet. We don't get it until Boxing Day here. If you don't know what Wish is, it is the newest animated classic from the Disney Animated Studios range, and the movie that's supposed to celebrate their 100-year anniversary of making these movies. America got this 2 or 3 weeks ago, I believe. It's already been out for a while. I really like Disney animated movies. I don't like all of them. Some I love with a passion. Some I think are fairly forgettable. Some I really like that other people hate, and vice versa. Everybody has different tastes. Everybody has different range. And I think the Disney classics have touched all of them in some way. It's never been this consistent level of quality across the board from the 1930s all the way to now. They've had their ups and downs for sure. But, it's always nice to get to 100 years and feel like you need to celebrate. I think 100 years is probably worth going, yeah, all right. We might do something to honor that or to do something special about it. Whether they succeeded or not is entirely up to you. But I didn't want to know anything about this movie. I avoided trailers. I didn't know who the movie was about, casting-wise. All I really knew was Ariana DeBois and Chris Pine were in it consecutively as the heroine and the villain of the piece. I didn't see any previews for songs that were released on YouTube. I didn't watch any reviews or read any reviews online because I just wanted to go in and see it for myself. And that became even more necessary when after it officially became available in America, or probably even before that, when they were releasing the villain of the film, King Magnifico's song on YouTube, or whatever kicked it off. I don't know. And it just became this train wreck of negativity and despise and disgust. All this stuff saying that the movie's mundane and boring and disappointing and Disney is creatively bankrupt and just terrible and don't waste your money and blah, 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 blah. Really, really negative stuff, which is a trend this year. Some of it's warranted. I've said multiple times on this show that we are at a breaking point, I think, with Hollywood, where we are spending too much money on movie productions for big things like superhero movies and these big IP brands that never make their money back. So they are commercial failures, meaning Disney or whoever, not just Disney, all studios have to go back to the drawing board. So we're getting to a point where I think we're going to have to roll it back, do some smaller stuff, spend less money for more intimate stories. Who knows what's going to happen? I'm actually really interested to see. And a few other things. There's also fatigue. Seeing 5 or 6 superhero movies a year. Yeah, it's all right to be like, okay, can I see something else? Especially if they are sort of the same. And it's not just superhero movies. It can be animated movies, comedies, dramas, whatever, however you want to do it. And also, despite the fact that everyone says, remember that pandemic, it's still kind of here. COVID never went away. It's still hanging around. Australia, I think we're going through our 96 wave or something. I don't know. But that thing, that elephant in the room of not wanting to contract it so it can ruin your Christmas holidays or anything like that, has changed the way that people see going to the movie theaters, especially with streaming as well. Why go to a movie theater and spend money on an overpriced ticket to sit with a bunch of people that are loud and smelly and crunching on food to potentially watch a movie that you may or may not like, you may despise, or just wait a bit, watch it on the streaming service that you're already paying a shit ton of money for, to at least watch in the comfort of your own home with your own temperature. And if you don't like it, it doesn't really matter that much. So all of that coming together, I think, is what's resulting in the box office flops of the year. But on top of that, there is just this overwhelming sense of cynicism and negativity, which I think is unwarranted in a lot of cases. I don't mind if you go and see something and you don't like it. If you don't like it, don't let it define you. If you find something to be not your cup of tea, move on. Move on with your life. Go on to the next thing. If you see something that doesn't gel with you, don't stew on it. Don't be personally affronted by it and then feel the need to just go on and on about it on the wonderful thing that is the internet. All it does is just make you more angry, make other people angry that you are angry, or make other people sad that you are angry. It's just not a good way, I think, to live our lives. And with something like Wish that came out recently, or The Marvels, or some other movies that came out this year, even before those movies came out, it was just, the movie's going to be garbage, I'm not going to watch, I saw that trailer, I saw the song thing, I don't think I'll like it because it's crap and terrible and everything sucks and you shouldn't do blah, 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 which is upsetting. And no matter how much you try, people are swayed by other people's opinions. Often if I've read a review of something, of a movie that I'm going to see, and it is in the negative, I do go into that movie with the sense of, this must be bad for a certain reason, when will I notice it? Which influences your ability to enjoy or objectively decide for yourself how you feel. There have been movies where I've avoided anything. I've gone, that was really good. And then I've seen, oh no, it's not, it's terrible. And I'm like, oh, well, I still like it because I was able to form an objective opinion. And I knew going into this, it was going to be hard because it was just completely everywhere, especially with it being Disney's 100th year celebration film, that it's not worth the celebration, that it's creatively bankrupt, that it's forgettable, that it's an insult, that it's AI, that somehow it's both too referential to Disney's past and also robotic and not full of any sort of human spark to it. I don't know. That's what everybody's been saying. So I'm not going to argue with any of that, because that's also the other thing you get online. You get people who are objectively arguing with other people. If you hate something, they explain why. Then someone says, well, I like it. But instead of explaining why they like it, they just point at the things that people said they hate and said, you're wrong for thinking that, you're stupid. And then it goes the other way. It goes into hate watch, which is a thing. It exists at the moment. So, especially because here in Australia it's 1,000,000 degrees and I don't want to sit here stewing while also feeling hot. And just, offering something refreshing, I think, to the viewers, the listeners, however you're doing this. It's on YouTube, so you're kind of limited. I'm not going to go, these people said this, they're wrong, and I hate them for it. I'm just going to tell you that I liked the movie. I'm going to explain what the movie was about, what I liked. It's not a perfect movie. It's never going to be up there with the greatest Disney films of all time, in my opinion, but it's also not down there with the movies in Disney's lineup that I absolutely despise, in my opinion. I won't even tell you which ones those are, because it just starts that ball rolling down the hill until it just becomes this sucks and that sucks and this sucks and that sucks. I'm just going to say what I thought worked, what I thought didn't work. But overall, to sum up a very long story short, I had a great time with it. I think I was pleasantly surprised because even trying to avoid all the negativity, it was looming over this thing. And I could feel it at the start of the movie. I'm just like, okay, when is it going to be? What's the bad stuff? What is everybody hating? And then I sort of looked into myself. I took a moment to be zen in this cinema with, I went to a family fun day screening by myself. Wonderful. Very, very bright, my finest hour, if you will. And I just let the kids were watching the movie and laughing and having fun at the lights, and the parents were having a good time because their kids were having a good time. And I'm sitting there, a 31-year-old, thinking, why am I watching this with the intent to critique it, to analyze it, to understand what it means to me? Why can't I just let it play as a movie and I'll see if I have a good time with it? And once I did that, a lot of that weight lifted off my shoulders, and I was like, this is okay. Then after a while, this is pretty good. Then after a while, this is pretty great. I'm having a good time with this. I don't think it's going to top my top 10 by the end of the movie. I believe I still stand by that opinion, but only in the sense that there is strong competition for the top 10 movies this year. If Wish made it onto my top 10, I would unabashedly say that, because I had a good time with it. I'm not going to say it's the greatest movie ever made, but it succeeded in making me have a good time for an hour and a half, to forget about the bleakness of the world and just be like, hey. And being a Disney aficionado, someone who likes that lore, likes the history of Disney, how they've come. We've done a full series on this show where I've gone through all the Disney ages, all the different movies, what was behind Disney at the time, the reflection of the times, yada yada. To see stuff in here that are references, that are subtle, was great. The stuff that was in your face, not so much. But I appreciate it what it was. I appreciate the effort put into it, and I had a good time with it. And I think if a lot of people go and see this with an open mind, I think, objectively, don't go just to hate it, see what you think. It's okay to not hate it. It's okay to like it. We all like different things. We all hate different things. But again, don't let it define you. Don't be those people on the internet that don't like that the Doctor may or may not be wearing a skirt in the next episode of Doctor Who. Perhaps it's a kilt, but it looks like a skirt, so I'm offended. That's a whole other conversation. Let's not get into that. So Wish, what is it about? It's the 100th year anniversary movie from Disney. It's set in this world called Rosas. It is a magnificent kingdom run by King Magnifico, voiced by Chris Pine. He's got some backstory or something about how he was in a terrible place that got burnt and whatever, and everybody's wishes were unobtainable and all of that, and he goes away and he learns to be a sorceress, and he came to Rosas. He started this kingdom with his goal being that he wanted to protect everybody's wishes, to make sure that they all come true. So part of the ceremony of this world is that when you turn 18, you go up to King Magnifico, and he looks inside you and he pulls out into an orb your greatest wish, the thing you wish for more in the world. As soon as he's got it, you forget what it is. He then takes it away, and then every so often he has a wish ceremony where he randomly calls someone from the crowd and grants them that wish. Our protagonist, Asha, voiced by Ariana DeBose, is a not turned 18 yet, but she's a hopeful young person living in this kingdom. Her father passed away years ago, but she lives with her mother and her grandfather, who is 100 years old and has never had his wish granted yet. So she hopes that she can intern with King Magnifico, be his apprentice, learn his tricks of the trade, with a slightly selfish desire that if she can do that, maybe she can convince Magnifico to grant her grandfather's wish. She works in the kitchens as well in the kingdom with 7 of her greatest friends, who are all inspired by the 7 dwarfs. I don't know if people knew that going into the movie. I didn't know. It's something I slowly came to realize as the movie went on. I'll get more into that in a second. But as she's trying to intern for King Magnifico, she realizes that he actually is a bit of a prick. He's a deceitful, power-hungry guy who has all these wishes and only intends to grant wishes that are, in his words, safe. But basically, they benefit him and the kingdom. If your wish is to be the greatest protector of the kingdom, the greatest guard to King Magnifico, he grants it. If you're going to make dresses for everybody who lives in Rosas, no problem. If you want to inspire other peoples to greatness, if you want to just fly for some fucking reason, he doesn't do that. And he has no intention of giving the wishes back. When Ash is like, why don't you just give the wishes back if you're not going to do it? He's like, no, they're my wishes. I keep them. Especially because once you give up your wish, you give up the thing that you are essentially inspired to live for. We all have that thing that drives us. It's a goal. Whether it's something we achieve or not is entirely up in the air. But it's when you're a kid. You dream of being a fireman or an astronaut or whatever. And then as you grow up, it becomes more obtainable, more logical. But it is something that gives you purpose in life. When these wishes are taken from you, you sort of just become flat, obedient, desolate. You don't really know you're depressed, but you're just existing. And that ain't good. So Asha, of course, when she's realizing all this, she starts to try and push back against Magnifico, who shows his colors even more about how sinister he is. In a desperate bid for hope, She wishes on a wishing star. The whole thing that defines Disney. Not even a wishing star. She just wishes on a star. She just wishes that she could have the magic or the power or whatever at her disposal to help Roses, to give them back their wishes, to stop Magnifico, which she wishes on a particularly lucky star, which is ominent. This little lucky star flies down, starts sprinkling magic everywhere, so much so that her pet goat, Valentino, starts talking in a very deep Alan Tudyk voice. All the animals around her start breaking into song. And she realizes using this star, she can fight back against Magnifico. And then it becomes sort of a game of cat and mouse, pushing and pulling against each other as they try to one-up what's going down. Magnifico gets more and more crazy and evil and powerful as he starts destroying wishes to fight back against Asha. She starts rallying her own troops, going to an eventual confrontation between the two, where hopefully everybody's wishes will be restored, Magnifico will be defeated, and Roses will return to some sort of hopeful paradise that it once was. Will it happen? I don't know. It's a Disney movie. Could be terrible, bleak, unhappy ending. Hasn't happened yet. Could happen now. We just have to see the movie to find out. I really liked that story. It took me a while to understand what was happening. Yes, it's very on the nose. It's very a lot of stuff we've seen before of fighting back against an evil dictator with a ragtag group of whatever. But it's also a movie with a theme and a message that I think is important at the moment, which is to strive for the thing in your life. Don't give up. Keep going until you get what you want. And spread positivity and joy. We're all better if we're all happy. None of this, I'm only happy if you're not happy bullshit. So it's nice, especially for the children watching this. It's a good message for them to learn. And side point on that, regardless of how long you've been watching Disney films or whatever, they're designed for children. They're the ones who are going to get the most out of it. They're going to appreciate the animation and the fancy colors and the singing and whatever. If you go and sit there in this movie and you cross your arms and you go, well, I thought that particular display was not suiting of the cinema experience. I mean, you can do that, but no one gives a shit because that's not really what the purpose of the movie is, really. It's to make money and to make children laugh. And the children that I was watching this movie with were having a good time with it. They were laughing and pointing and whatever. That's the true test of whether an animated movie is successful or not, really. It's an added bonus if the animation reaches past into the parents. It's not required, but it's nice if that happens. I want to give shout out to our villain, King Magnifico. Chris Pine is always great. Everything he's ever been in, especially when he voices characters, especially when he gets to sing. He's wonderful. He's refreshing for me in the villain sense. I've been saying in the last few Disney movies I've reviewed, or a Disney discussion in general, that as much as I can appreciate a flawed, multi-layered villain who has a tragic past and is misunderstood and can be redeemed, I also long for the Renaissance or years where villains were just villainous. They were just evil and they enjoyed being evil, and they had no dark, sad story. They were just, I hate you, I want to do this, I want power, ha 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 ha, gleeful, maniacal, fun to watch villains. They get terrible conupances, mostly involving falling from a great height to their death. And in this sense, Magnifico is much more like that. I won't say what his eventual fate is, or how he gets to certain points, or why, or what's going on with his character, but he's not misunderstood or redeemable. He is delightfully evil, and he revels in being evil the more evil he gets as it goes along. His villain song, which everyone has been ridiculing since it came out as a pre-release before the movie, and all they ever do is Lin-Manuel Miranda-like songs. I sort of get that, because in context, if you watch that song and you don't have any idea of who his character is or where he's got to at that point, you might think that. But for me, personally, hearing that song for the first time as a part of the movie, where it's like into the third act of the movie and he's building to a point where there's no coming back from, I thought it was pretty great. I thought it was awesome. The rest of the characters, I think, are very serviceable. Asha is a fun protagonist, but she's not, in my opinion, really memorable in the sense that someone like Mirabelle or Elsa or Rapunzel or any of the most recent characters in the Disney movies are. She has all those qualities that they all have, which sort of means that she doesn't have her own defining quality. She's quirky, like all the others. She's strong and brave, like all the others, I guess. That's not a detriment to her. It's just, I don't think she'll go down as one of the more memorable Disney heroes in future years. And her supporting players all service the plot as they need to. No one really... There's no scene stealer character, I think, in my opinion. But no terrible characters either. The talking goat, Valentino, a lot of his humor kind of fell flat for me because it felt kind of forced. It didn't allow to sort of operate naturally. Like he smashes his way through a wall using his butt because he's trying to scratch his butt against a wall, which is objectively funny. But then when Asha says, "Oh, you smashed through the wall," he goes, "I smashed through it with my butt." I was like, yes, I did. I suppose the joke is that you said butt and you're a talking goat. I don't know, do a little better there, I guess. But in contrast to that, the little magic star that flies around that doesn't say any words, cute and adorable as hell and has an attitude. And I thought he was, or she, don't really know what the star's gender was, I guess, was delightful. Was a nice little MacGuffin character that had it, you could tell its own drives and wants and desires, and something that you wanted to root for, I guess, or at least to work with Asha to achieve the goals. The animation's really good, in my opinion. It's a nice little homage to all animation that's come before in Disney. It's like a blend of the 2D, 3D imagery. So they are 3D characters, but they're a bit flatter. Their movements are a bit more stretched, like old classic 2D style drawings, and the backdrops are all painted, which looks great. We don't really leave the Roses Kingdom, which is a little unfortunate, but I don't think the story really needs to go outside of that. And the music is pretty good. It's not incredible. I don't think there's a song in here that will go down in history like Let It Go, or How Far I'll Go from like Moana and Frozen and all of that stuff. But they're bangers. They're good stuff. They service the point of the movie. I think, as I said with the villain, they'll really work better if you're actually watching the movie. I don't know how well they'll work if you're just listening to them separately on Spotify. That being said, there is one song that I really dug, which is like a revolution song that Asha sings with her friends when they're getting ready to take down Magnifico. It was a banger song. Good use of drums and the chorus, and it built me to a crescendo where I was ready to run through a wall to fight Magnifico with them. So I guess mission accomplished on that one. Now, to talk about the two things that everybody kind of references in negativity, I'm not addressing why people are wrong. I'm just observing if I believe these things have merit to them or not. The first is that the movie feels like AI, that because it's predictable and it hits a lot of the beats that we've seen a million times before, that essentially because of what's going on with strikes and whatever, that robots could have just written this movie. I don't think that's the case. I think based on how it's presented and its desperate need to fit in references and homages to Disney, I think people were behind it who did that, because it's not... If an AI had done it, it would have been like the Uncanny Valley sort of thing where you're not exactly sure if that was a reference or not, and it unsettles you to think. And the dialogue is not unnatural, especially with the voice actors doing it. However it was written, they sell it. But in contrast to that, there's also a lot of negativity about how it's just stuffed with references to previous movies. So as such, it's not its own thing. And again, I have to disagree with that, unfortunately. There are references in here. I think you have to give it a little bit of slack. It is Disney's 100th movie anniversary thing. I think when you get to that point, you are allowed to celebrate it in a certain way. You are allowed to reference and call back to previous things, as long as it doesn't flatten the story. At the same time, it's kind of like if you go to someone's 21st birthday, you look on the wall and see all the pictures of them from their previous birthdays, and you go, "You got any pictures of you now? What is this? Are you doing anything right now? Or are we just supposed to go, yeah, look at all this past stuff?" You know? Learn to be a bit more flexible with something like this. The references themselves aren't flawless. Sometimes they're really subtle and they work really well, and it's a nice little, if you're familiar with Disney lore, you can get it, but if you're not, it doesn't impact the story. Whether it's realizing that her friends are all based on the seven dwarfs, the dwarf characteristics don't define those characters. I will say also, just a little thing. It's not too negative, but I do want to say The character that's based on Doc from the Seven Dwarfs, Dahlia, I think her name is, she walks with a crutch in the movie. And I have seen people go, what was the point of her having a crutch? You can't give her a crutch unless it's relevant to the story. I have to say, for things like that, if you see someone in a movie and they've got a crutch or a wheelchair or an eye patch or whatever, and the movie just has them be that character with that thing, they don't need to explain. It doesn't need to be important to the story because it's just an attribute of a person. And people exist in this world who walk with crutches, and you don't need to know why they do. They just do. When you watch someone and they've got, well, maybe not this is a specific example. I was going to say if you watch someone with skin color, you don't go, oh, he's black. How is that relevant to the story? But people are still kind of racist shitheads. More specifically, a person having blue or green eyes. If the person has green eyes, how is having green eyes relevant to the story? Just crutches and wheelchairs and things like that are just things people have. And putting them in a movie at the very basic is just allowing for representation. It's allowing for people who do walk with crutches, who never see themselves in movies like these, look up and go, hey, Dahlia is walking around with a crutch. I don't know why she is. She just is. I walk around with a crutch. I don't tell people why I do. I just do. Now I can imagine myself in a movie like this because I can see it. A little off track there, but between that and people going on Doctor Who about someone being in a wheelchair and how the wheelchair is important to the story, it's just, yeah. Anyway, aside from that, you get the Seven Dwarfs references, which I think is nice and subtle. You've also got even smaller things like Usher's house is painted and stylized and looks exactly like Aurora's house in the woods from Sleeping Beauty. If you know that, it's a nice little, oh. If you don't, doesn't matter. When all the animals are coming to life, one of the animals is a rabbit. And when he stands up to sing, he thumps his feet on the ground really, really fast. An obvious homage to Thumper the Rabbit from Bambi, if you are aware of that. If you don't, it's just a rabbit being a rabbit. On the other hand, though, some of the references, not so much. When Magnifico puts his face on the mirrors for all the world to see, him being evil, he says, mirror, mirror on the wall. That's on the nose. When he's saying to a person like, oh, you wish to fly? I'll send your dreams to Neverland. That's on the nose. So it's kind of all over the place in sometimes being really clever and subtle with their references and smacking you over the head with it. But again, I give them a little bit of a pass because when it works, it works. And it is the 100th movie celebration. So come on, let's be a little nice here. Look, overall, because I've talked too long, I think. It's a long episode. I really liked Wish. I was pleasantly surprised. I will admit that because I liked it so much when I expected that I would hate it because of what I was hearing, I might be more pleasant to it and more selling it a bit more than it probably deserves. Maybe after a while when I've rewatched it, it might drop just a little bit. But overall, I think it's a solid movie. It's a good entry into the Disney vocabulary. It's a nice little celebration of their 100 years. There's good characters, there's good animation, there's good songs. It's a good time to be had. I don't think that Disney is creatively bankrupt with this. I think it's just as good or bad as it's ever been, really, to be honest. And I would just implore, don't be one of those people who hears that something is bad and just assumes it is, or agrees, or starts saying it's bad because someone told them it was bad. Form your own opinions. You don't have to go and see this movie if you don't want to. You don't have to pay for it. You can wait till it's on streaming. You can watch it another way. I don't care. But all I ask is that you just watch the movie for yourself and then decide for yourself if you like it or not. I know that's hard. It's a difficult world we live in. But that's the best way to just appreciate life at the moment. The only way we're going to appreciate content in any capacity is if we lighten up a bit and we don't let other people decide for ourselves. There you are. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed. I've enjoyed talking about this, and I hope it has been the positive experience that I want it to be. I hope I've walked the line between being positive and not complaining about the negatives. I feel like I have, but I know I strayed into the darkness a few times there. But I apologize for that. I do hope at the very least you've enjoyed the episode, you've enjoyed hearing about it. You may or may not go see Wish, I don't know. But hopefully it's just a different take compared to everything else you've heard at the moment. I will be back later this week for the review of Wonka. I'm excited to watch that one too. I don't know if it's going to be good or not, but I will reserve my opinion until I watch it. Over the next couple of weeks, we will also be reviewing Chicken Run Dawn of the Nugget and Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Maybe something else if something else slots in between there and then. But we will then ring in the new year with our top 10 movies of 2023. It'll be a baller episode, probably too long, as most of them are, and I hope you'll join me for that. But until later this week for Wonka, or until the next time you choose to tune in, I love and appreciate you as always. It's been a delight. As always, thank you for listening. You've been spliced in later. Adios, muchachos. I'll catch you next time.